Hello, everyone. It's the Irish Patriot here. Hope you're all doing well. So today I want to talk about or continue my conversation about collusion during the Troubles in Northern Ireland between the British government, the British Army or the Queen of England, and the paramilitary forces in Northern Ireland and the Republic of the IRA, supposed mainly. Um, and on the other side, the loyalist side, the UVF, UDA, etc. Um, but particularly, I want to talk about one man today, Freddie Scappaticci, aka Stakeknife. Freddie Scappaticci, this man here. Um, was this? I started this article here. He was he was number 2 in the internal security unit for the IRA for I'd say over 25 years, and he was very very high up in the IRA. And it turns out the it was leaked here in this article Sunday, 11th of May 2003. He was outed as a British informant. Um, so this man was number 2 in the internal security unit for the IRA, which was a team in the IRA, the most important team. They were in charge of rooting out supposed informers in the IRA when a operation went wrong in the IRA. A lot of the times, that would happen if a operation went wrong, something happened. Um, the internal security unit would be brought in, and they would um interrogate or ask questions of the guys who were involved in the art of the plot, say if it went wrong. And so sometimes they would suppose an informer, and this man Scappaticci was in charge of interrogating and killing informers, and he probably killed over 50 people who were supposed to be informers. But we find out that this man was an informer himself, and he was killing other informers to protect his identity. And here's the article in 2003 when he was outed by The Guardian. He did the IRA's dirty work for 25 years and was paid £80,000 a year by the government. Man revealed his army agent may be connected to 40 murders. Even to his fellow IRA men shocked at the revelations of the traitor in their midst, Alfredo Scappaticci has a fearsome reputation as a ruthless psychopath. This article continues, talks about here this Eamon Collins man who is actually dead now. He was killed in 1999. He turned supergrass. He was one of the top guys in the IRA using the internal security unit, and he turned supergrass, but then he retracted his evidence. He wrote a book, a very good book actually. I read it. Called Killing Rage, but he was killed. When was it? 19. Yeah, he murdered him in 1999. But I'm not sure when his book was written. Maybe 96 or something. So this article goes on. It's quite a long article. So this man, I'll give you the gist of what this article is about. So this man, they're saying here, he was entrusted in the IRA Armoured Council with the crucial role. He was in fact the British Army's most precious asset at the heart of the Republican movement for a quarter of a century. So you So here in the article, Scappaticci was a low-level IRA member in the 1970s, but an incident in 78 was to change his life, with devastating consequences for his terrorist colleagues. After a row with a senior provo, he was subjected to a severe punishment beating, which so enraged him that he marched straight into an army barracks, what military intelligence call a walk-in, and offered his services. So here, apparently they're saying in 78 he got into a fight or something, in a row with one of his fellow IRA colleagues, and got a beating, and he was so angry and enraged that he turned himself over to the British Army and offered his services. And so the Force Research Unit, which was the group that I talked about in my previous video, shadowy arm branch of the British Army, and they were sent in to recruit agents from both sides of the paramilitary groups and infiltrate them and control both sides and run it, create false flag terrorism. So the Force Research Unit, the army's shadowy spying, could not believe their luck, and before long they had engineered Scapitici's promotion to a senior role in the Nutting Squad. The Nutting Squad is the they call it the Internal Security Unit, where he not only interrogated, tortured and killed suspected informers, but vetted hundreds of would-be recruits to decide if they were suitable IRA material. So here, not only was Scapitici interrogating supposed informers, he was in charge of recruitment. So anyone who wanted to join the IRA, they would have to meet this Scapitici man. So he would have their name, and I'm sure he was giving all this information to the British forces. So no wonder they would have done anything to have protected this Scapitici. He was the main agent inside the IRA. And the article goes on: a team of soldiers with a fleet of vehicles at their disposal were kept busy protecting him and analysing the information he provided. So he had a whole squadron of people just looking after him alone. Army sources insisted that Stakeknife saved lives and foiled IRA atrocities, and his legend has grown such that he is credited with involvement in nearly every big security operation in the past 25 years. So, and it goes on then to some of the things that he was involved with over the years. And then it goes on to say how Scapitici was had to be scurried away to England because of death threats, and so anyway, now I'm going to move on to this, or actually, first of all, I want to talk about this book again. I've talked about it in my previous video. It's called Stakeknife. It's about this man Freddie Scapitici, and it's wrote by a man called Martin Ingram, who was a handler of agents. He worked in the Force Research Unit, the organisation who Scapitici was passing on information. Martin Ingram knew Scapitici's handler, and he wrote a book, and his book is very damning. And if anyone wants to understand what was going on inside Northern Ireland, it'll explain a lot of the terrorism. And it's very, very good. And okay, moving on. This is I was going to say, this article here: Freddie Scapitici was our most valuable spy in the IRA during the Troubles. British Army Chief. So, a former commander of UK land forces has confirmed that Britain's most valuable spy in the IRA was indeed Freddie Scapitici, a member of the IRA's feared internal security team, codenamed Stakeknife. Scapitici denied being a British agent before leaving Northern Ireland in 2003, although he admitted to being an active Republican. He was our most important secret, said General Sir John Wolseley, who was Army Commander in Northern Ireland from 1990 to 1993. Sir John added, he was a golden egg, something that was very important to the Army. We were terribly cagey about Fred. And the article goes on: he made the admission in a telephone conversation with Ian Hurst, a military intelligence whistleblower, which has since been posted on the internet. And I'm actually going to go to that right now. But see, they're saying there, this Hurst, he made the admission in a telephone conversation with Ian Hurst. That's the same guy. Martin Ingram is a pseudonym for Ian Hurst. That's the guy who wrote this book here, Stakeknife. And he calls this Sir John General John Wolseley, and pretends to be a journalist, and asks him about Stakeknife. And I want to play it now. So that they're talking about Ingram now is talking about. I was going to ask him about Scapitici and his role with him. So here we go.
They're quite serious matters where there's documents, but there's also a recording of you admitting to be in a car with Fred Scapitici.
I was in a car with him?
Yeah, in South Belfast, and it's recorded in some contact forms that we have.
Right. That doesn't sound right to me. I don't know. Fred Jeffers, who's he?
You don't know who Fred Scappaticci is?
No, not by that name, no.
Well, you know him as Stakeknife.
Oh, that chap, yes, sorry, yes, yeah.
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 And the point that
I'd never been in the car with him.
Sorry?
I'd never been in the car with him.
Yes, you had. Well, you were on the outside of a car, but you had a meeting in South Belfast in 1993.
Right.
Is that right, sir?
Well, this is all D-native stuff, isn't it? I mean, Fred
It is, sir, but what I'm saying is, before I come down, I just wanted to give you the opportunity of either saying yes or no, and clearly there is a recording of you discussing this with another journalist fairly recently.
Right.
And what I don't want to do, sir, is to mislead you. I just wanted to be clear as to the reasons why, if you allowed me to come down, it wouldn't be on camera, but I'd like the opportunity of showing you some documentation. As you know, the Force Research Unit, they produce the contact forms.
Yes.
And they record that you were concerned you would be subject to some interest by Lord Stevens.
Oh, right, yeah. The Stephen thing, yes.
Yes, and that was your concern as to your motivation why you made that meeting with Mr. Scappaticci.
Well, yes, I mean, what happened, the head of the intelligence in Northern Ireland came to see me and said that Stevens was burrowing around and that Fred Scappaticci, whatever his name is, Stakeknife, was unsettled. And would I go and see him and reassure him to the value of his work?
Yes, no, and
that's what I did. But I never went in the car with him.
No, but you were on the outside. You were in South Belfast.
Yes. Well, it took place in Belfast. Yes.
Yeah. What I understood was, from what I gathered from the documents, was that there was only you and him together. And
that is correct. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's how I understood it, sir.
Yes.
I mean the detail, I don't think is how can I put this? I don't think it's of such gravity that it would never get in a TV program.
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, he was ousted by Stevens, wasn't he?
Well, he was, sir. Yeah, I mean, I
thought it was the most terribly unprofessional business, but he was ousted by Stevens, yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and by the way, I did read your book as well, sir. And I was looking at the references to narrative.
And I didn't mention his name in the book at all.
No, I noticed that, so that was why I was going to ask you, because clearly your Ulster Tales would have featured, I would suggest, quite prominently, given that your period, your tenure, was a very political moment.
Yes, absolutely.
Where the peace process was taking, some hold.
Yes, absolutely.
And given Mr. Scappaticci's role, clearly it would be extremely unusual for a GLC to get in a car with an agent, and it must have been a very serious situation for that to have happened.
Well, I've explained the seriousness of the situation. That he was fed up with Stevens. He was worried about Stevens.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, sir, but there must be. I don't say there must be, but there would have been other agents who would have been concerned about, things like Brian Nelson, Stevens, but not you wouldn't have got in the car with any other agent. It had to be a serious situation for.
Well, he was our best agent, as you know.
Yes, and I understand that, sir.
Yeah.
And would you have been able to reassure him? Would that have been the outcome?
I did reassure him. Yes.
And did he then go on to continue in his work?
Well, as far as I know, yes, because I never saw who the product was. You just see these intelligence reports.
Yes, sir.
And they don't name so and so said.
Yeah, no, I mean I appreciate that. So on the contact forms that we've seen, it clearly does demonstrate or detail your involvement.
Yes.
But it's a contact form in itself.
All right, so there you had it. Sir John Wolsey, 5-star general, confirming that Scappaticci is Stakeknife, and that he was the most important agent for the British Army inside the IRA. And I don't know if you Understood, but they were talking about the John Stevens inquiry, which was that's what what this guy Woolsey went to meet Scappaticci about. Was Scappaticci was he was concerned that this inquiry into collusion and Stakeknife's name came out because of this Stevens inquiry into collusion. He was investigating the murder of a Republican lawyer called Pat Finucane, who was killed by a loyalist. But the investigation found out that there was out of like something like the 9 people that killed were involved in the murder plot of Pat Finucane. 7 or 8 of them were double agents of the British state. And Stakeknife was outed by this guy Stevens. And then I'm going to move on now to a little further down the line, 2011, called the thing called the Smithick Tribunal. It was an investigation into collusion between there was 2 British officers who were killed on their way back from Dundalk, I believe, and it was an investigation of collusion between the Gardaí in Dundalk and the IRA. The Gardaí tipped off the IRA where these guys would be, and they were end up killed. But this guy here, Ian Hurst, or Martin Ingram, the guy who wrote this book, he was giving evidence. But and this is the statement of Ian Hurst. It's like 20 pages. You can get this all online, but it's about 20 something pages. But I'm going to skip. I've went through it, and this is the main points here. So he makes this point here. Just as a rough guide, everyone should listen to this. As a rough guide, you should expect 1 in 4 provisional IRA volunteers to be an agent of one agency or another. As a rough guide, you should expect 1 in 2 provisional IRA officer class to be agents of one agency or another. On the 3rd of May 2011, Lord Stevens, who had headed 3 separate investigations into state collusion in Northern Ireland and interviewed Mr. Scappaticci under caution, made the following comments regarding these matters and refers directly to the murders of Mr. Breen and Mr. Buchanan. That's the 2 guys that were 2 British officers who were killed on their way back from a meeting in the Gardaí station, I believe, in Louth. Lord Stevens said this: "We were over there during a period of time in what were very difficult circumstances, physically and mentally, when RUC superintendents would be blown to bits by cars, and we actually had some threats against us. Yes, the rule of law must appertain wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and that the rule of law must be absolutely locked into and deal with the processes as they stand at the time. What I am saying is that certainly what we discovered, and some of it may never see the light of day, I don't know, as we have 100 tons of documentation now over there, and that is not a matter for me. It is a matter for other people. It is that there has to be a proper, transparent process, and there has to be a meeting. There was the RUC, MI5, and the Army doing different things. When you talk about intelligence, okay, this is very important. When you talk about intelligence, of the 210 people we arrested, only 3 were not agents. Read that again. When you talk about intelligence, of the 210 people we arrested, only 3 were not agents. Some of them were agents for all 4 of those particular organisations, fighting against each other, doing things and making a large sum of money, which was all against the public interest and creating mayhem in Northern Ireland." Unquote. So there you have it there. Like, this proves what I'm talking about, the level of collusion that people don't understand. It's kind of mind-boggling, to be honest. And here we'll go more recent again, 9th of June 2015. So this, what I'm talking about now, was all 2003, 2011, and this is still going on. They're still, the people who he killed, or supposedly killed, the victim family members are all are putting pressure on the government on both sides to investigate these murders. And there was there was a very good documentary called Spotlight, as it was about Fred Scappaticci, and it was only recently, like the 9th of June or around that time, and here's an article from the BBC. Fred Scappaticci's lawyers failed to stop broadcast of BBC Spotlight film. Lawyers acting for senior Republican Freddie Scappaticci have failed in an attempt to prevent the BBC from running part of a Spotlight film on Tuesday. So, and then goes on to say a BBC spokesman said the programme is of major public interest. No shit, it's major public interest. So I went looking on the internet on the BBC website to find this the Spotlight documentary, but of course it was removed. But I found it here on Dailymotion. I'm going to put the link up for it too, just in case anyone wants to watch it. Now, I would advise anyone to watch it because it's very interesting. And I'm going to leave you with no other than the man himself, the man of the hour, Federico Scappaticci, and he's again, you can get this is like a 30-minute interview, or it's 1993. He was recorded talking to, who was he talking to? I think it was a journalist or a TV documentary team or something. And talks about a lot of different things. Talks about the IRA, the setup, and who's involved and what they do, and talks about Martin McGuinness a lot. But I want to leave you one little piece. Excuse me. So here he's talking about what they do, how they interrogate supposed informers, and he does very well to dodge the questions, but he doesn't say that he's the one that is doing all this himself. He's the one that is the interrogator. He's the guy that puts a bullet in people's heads. So we're going to leave you here with Freddie himself talking about what they're talking about. That's going to go straight into where they would take people or take supposed informers or whatever.
And talk there. That was the crack, right? They don't talk in the centres, right? No, sure. Right. Now they do a lot of business in their centres, but hard IRA business they don't do, right? They do, like, if you want to talk, it might shock you, we're going on most stuff about kneecapping people and stuff like that, you know, that's done in their centres, you know what I mean? But not actually going out to murder people and stuff like that, right? That's never done there. Yeah.
But the truth that they are interrogation centres, the Sinn Féin centres, and used for kneecappings and other things, and kangaroo courts.
Well, what would you say about kangaroo courts? Well, what do you mean by kangaroo court?
Well, what we would call a kangaroo court, which is not an official court, where people are having been.
Paul McGavin standing the statement there and interrogated and beaten and held. No, I would doubt now that that's true. That's what he's saying. What could have happened was he was taken there initially, and then from there somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now they wouldn't interrogate him in that centre.
He wasn't held. He was taken there. The second time he was taken there.
Right.
The first time he was actually taken to another house and bundled into the back of a car and stripped.
Right.
But he's not, as I said, he's not the only one that we've got talking about that.
Well, that's the start. See, when they have the standard procedure is to strip and debug them, right, just to see if they're wired up or whatever, right? Yeah. And they usually put a boiler suit on them then after that, right? Put them in a chair facing the wall, right, and then go from there.
Then go to the arms.
Well, now, see where people saying now that they use a lot of violence? They don't really. Physical violence they don't use now. They use mental violence, obviously, you know?
It's become psychological.
Exactly. It's a psychological thing, you see. They get you into the room, they blindfold you, right? Strip you. They'll have you sitting there, right? Maybe the room's cold. They make you all sorts of promises, right? And everybody being what they are, everybody's a breaking point, you know? And they think they're going to go home, but they don't.
What is McGuinness up to at the moment, you know?
Well, he's still in Ireland Quando, see?
Right.
But
that was the man himself, Federico Scappaticci. Now, I hope I've given some people some leads there and to go investigate this themselves, because I think it's important to know the true side of history and to make sense of it, to move forward. And it's not even this man here, it's the people who are in charge of him is what needs. It's not the agents themselves, it's the handlers, the people, the British government, the top of the top. That's why they don't want this getting out in the open. That's why they don't want investigations, but we need to investigate it. And if that means relocating all these agents, then so be it. They got mixed up, and they're victims themselves. And the government has to be investigated. The Irish government and the British government, for collusion, for instigating false flag terrorism, and just creating anarchy in the streets. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you all later.